We're looking at this season coming up here. What do you think is like a concern? Like, what do you think if you could look at like one area in particular that could be our Achilles heel or the thorn in our side? Is there something that stands out to you, or is there maybe not?
Right.
Like, what do you see?
I would say this is it's a pretty vague answer, but it's just so true. The quarterback has to play at a above 80 to 85% clip for the team to win.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is just executing at that rate, at that percentage. And simple execution doesn't mean completing a pass. I think a lot of people get that mixed up. Simply getting to the line and getting a playoff when there's 11 seconds left, that's executing.
Yeah.
Making sure guys are lined up, that's executing. Making sure, if it's Z orbit, you don't do Z cross on the motion.
You're communicating with your guys, the
yeah,
plays.
Yeah, and little things like I would say even a completion can be a dock of or a minus. Missing big plays, making the plays that are written up.
You go through your progressions incorrectly, so you miss the guy open, but you threw it to the cross route anyway.
Yeah. And people see a 4-yard game, but in totality, it was quarters, and we ran a pin concept, and the safety drove on the dig, and there was a post wide open over top.
Right.
But we checked down to the running back in the flat, right? Damn. And he got 4 yards. But everyone's like, okay, it's 2nd and 4 now. But anyone watching the film the next day says, well, we just missed a touchdown, and we needed that. And then you go back throughout the game, and this is what was frustrating, just my years there. And I wasn't not necessarily saying the quarterback, just overall in football terms from all positions. You just go back and you look at all the missed plays, and you just say, if we would have had 3 of those, we would have won the game, or just 1 of those, or if we hit on 85% of them, like I was talking about, then we go ahead and win.
Just outright. Just outright.
We go ahead and win. Yeah.
Well, I have a position-oriented question for you, because this is, once again, I want to know your opinion. This is my observation as a complete and total ding-dong who doesn't know anything about X's and O's and played like football in my friend's backyard and when I was a kid. That was basically the extent of my football hands-on knowledge. But my biggest frustration last year was how criminally overlooked our tight end room looked specifically. I think that our tight end room looked really good last year. Fidone and Boerkircher were open a lot, and I don't know what. There was a lot of questions with our quarterback play last year, so that's just a whole can of worms that I don't want to get into. But from a position standpoint of tight end, last year, did we not have a really well executing and open tight end room, or was it just that the defenders and the defenses that we were up against knew that our quarterback play wasn't going to be elite enough to do the proper reads and the proper progressions to look for the tight ends, so they just didn't bother with them? Or are we looking at a potentially elite tight end room if we have a quarterback that can actually get the ball to them? So I guess it's a 2-part question.
Right.
Were we actually as good on the tight end room as I thought we were last year? They were just criminally overlooked all the time by our quarterbacks. And do you think that our tight end room this year can be close to elite or just downright elite?
Yeah, I think so. I think you got Fidone going into his 2nd year under his belt, really playing.
Yeah,
I believe so.
Yeah. He's not rehabbing. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And first off season healthy. I think that's a big thing, and being able to run and do his thing. Then I think next, we got Boerkircher, and I think his role will increase this year. I think it will. I think he has just a unique play style where he's sneaky athletic. And that's
a good way to put it.
That's something we used to always joke around with him. Just because he'll all of a sudden just make a crazy one-handed catch, or he'll just make a guy fall in one-on-ones, and then we're just like, Pork, like how, like like he's just walking around. It's just if you know Bork, it would make sense. But I would say that that room has a lot of talent. And then you obviously got Lindenmeyer, who does some interesting things for him. Kind of has that role of does the dirty work. In 13 personnel, he's the guy capping off that, what would it be, ABCD gap. But yeah. I think the room will be elite. I think they go as Fidone goes. But if I'm correct on the judgment I have of Fidone, I think he's a phenomenal worker. He really puts his all into his work, and I would say this year I would expect him to be one of the best tight ends in the Big Ten. And I think we're going to see a looser Fidone, be able to see how he can run an open field and do some things, stretching it out a little bit too, and him being physical in the run game. I think it's going to be a awesome year for that group. So I would say they're going to be elite. Yeah.
And then you've got Carter Nelson coming in from Ainsworth, the best top recruit in Nebraska, and the dude's just freaky athletic too.
Yeah.
And I doubt they're going to keep him off the field in his freshman year. I'm guessing he plays at least 4 games. You never know what he's capable, because he's so fast and so big.
Right. I think it's one thing with freshman tight ends is the weight issue and the strength. Because you get into Big Ten, you're playing against 22-year-old grown men who can, squat 700 pounds and bench 400. So those getting into, the first UTEP, you could, if he's up to par during camp and, he's accelerated in his learning and that, he's expanded his IQ, because that's one of the things at the tight end position. You can't be put on the field if you're not smart. Any tight end that plays football is smart.
Oh yeah, you have to think on a multi-complex level.
Exactly.
You're not just a wide receiver, you're also a blocker, and you're not just a blocker, you can also wheel around and cause confusion and stuff.
Yeah.
And
you're essentially an extension of the O-line.
Yes.
Yeah. So you got to know all their run pro terminology. You have to know your own tight end room terminology. You have to know their pass pro terminology, the tight end room terminology, know where the back is going. So yeah, definitely one of those things where they are unique.
That is a very unique position, and I do not envy the folks who do it, because it also requires a very, like kind of what you were alluding to earlier with freshmen coming in. They can have a lot of talent. They can have a lot of freakish natural ability, but you're at 18 years old, you're not showing up at campus weighing 235, 250, ready to go to town with these elite defensive ends and linebackers coming at you and being able to push off of them like you need to.
Exactly.
And so, but I do agree with my dad. I think that they probably use him in some experiential, and give him some experience and some live game time, because you gotta see what dudes like that are actually capable of in a live, when live rounds are flying over his head.
I think one point off of that, I think that's why it's so important for when guys see teams like Michigan and Georgia and Bama and they ask questions like, why are their 2s and 3s able to jump into the starter role so easily? One key reason behind that is they blow out teams, and by blowing out teams,
they get a lot of experience for the young guys.
Yeah, their second team gets in the game and gets really comfortable and get some live reps against the other opposing team's first team, and third team gets some live reps as well. So the first 4 games, when you're playing lesser opponents, you want to win, of course, but you really want to get some guys in there in those certain roles and feel the pressure and understand what you're working with as a team. Like, we got a guy who plays great in practice, and we throw him out in the games and he poots the bed, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So that's not what we want. And then the vice versa as well. You got guys who maybe surprised you, and all of a sudden they carve out a role in those games later on for Big Ten players. So yeah.